Imagine we're working on our exit polling application, and we've got a string that looks like this. For discussion's sake, let's say this string represents a message that's sent from the browser to the server. You can think of this string as an inquiry message about a particular voting district, District 42. Now, when this message arrives at the server, there's a good chance we'll need to separate the first part here from the second part here, because maybe you need to extract the number 42 to do a lookup or a query with it. Now, some of you are probably thinking, why would you communicate between the browser and the server with the string like this? Wouldn't it be better to send data like this as JSON? Well, it depends, maybe and maybe not. Later in the course, you'll see how strings formatted just like this can work pretty well with a real-time feature of the Phoenix Web Framework called channels. So for the moment, just go with the flow and you'll see practical examples of using messages like this a bit later. So here's the challenge I want you to consider. How do we extract the number 42 from this string? Now, I bet some of you are already starting to solve this little challenge in your mind, and you're probably thinking of using one or more functions from the string module. If that's what you're thinking, good on you. For most languages, that's a pretty reasonable and normal approach to this small challenge. But you don't need a function to solve this small challenge because in Elixir, you can use pattern matching. Okay, what exactly is pattern matching? Well, I want you to think about pattern matching as a couple of potentially related things. First, it's a way of making assertions about a value, and second, it's a way to destructure a value into smaller component parts. Now, there's more to the story on pattern matching, but this is a good way to start thinking about pattern matching as a beginner. Okay, let's start to solve this challenge. First, I'll create a variable named message, and I'll bind it to the string district:42. Next, I'll create a new variable named district_ID, and I'll use the match operator, the equal sign, and then I'll key in the variable message. Okay, this isn't particularly interesting. We're just binding district ID to the string that the message variable is bound to, but the match operator can do more than just bind a variable to a value. It can also allow you to make assertions about values. So for example, what if I did the following? In front of the district ID, I'll key in the string literal district:, and then I'll put some sort of operator here. Now for the moment, just ignore this part right here. We'll come back to this in a bit. This kind of looks like some form of an assertion. Here's what I mean. You could interpret this line to effectively be saying, hey Elixir, I expect this string right here to be the first part of the value on the right side of the match operator. It's as if we're saying I've got a pattern here that I expect to see over here as well. But these question marks aren't valid, so the syntax of this expression isn't quite right yet, but there is an operator we can use here, and you're already familiar with the operator I'm talking about. Do you have any guesses on what operator might work here? If you have no idea what I'm asking for here, well, let me tell you how to make an educated guess for this question and other questions like this that I'll be asking you throughout this course. This expression is the start of a pattern matching expression, but another way we could describe this expression is that it's also a destructuring expression. In other words, it's trying to take something, this string right here, and break it up into smaller component parts. A while back, when I introduced the string data type, there was an operator I showed you that allows you to construct a larger string from two smaller strings. Do you remember what operator I'm talking about? Well, it's the less than greater than sign, which is the string or binary concatenation operator. Okay, so we can use this operator to construct or concatenate strings. So what operator do you think can be used to deconstruct a string? Well, it's the same operator. So let's head back to IEX and let's replace the question marks with the less than greater than sign, and I'll press enter. Here's the thing you should remember when doing pattern matching and destructuring of a value. Generally speaking, you'll destructure a value very similar to how you would construct a value, often using the same operators to construct and deconstruct values. So let's get back to this example and I'll recap what happened on this line of code. When I pressed enter, the match operator will check to see if the assertion being made is correct. In other words, is the value on the right side of the match operator a string that begins with district colon? Well, we know this is true in this case. Then the remainder of this string, in other words, everything after the colon here, is bound to the variable district_ID. Just to verify, let's key in the variable district_ID and press enter, and as you can see, the value that's bound to this variable is the 42. Cool. What do you think would happen if we try to run a similar expression, but on the right side of the match operator, I keyed in a string that doesn't match the first part of the string on the left-hand side? Let's see. Well, it gave us a match error, which if you think about this expression as an assertion, the result we got, an error, should make sense. The assertion failed because this part here isn't the same as this part here. Now, I bet I know what some of you are thinking. You're probably thinking, this is somewhat interesting, but why would I want to do this? I mean, why can't I just use some functions to split the string up and then maybe use some conditional logic? I totally get that sentiment, but here's what you should know. Pattern matching by itself isn't particularly interesting. However, when you mix pattern matching with some other features of Elixir, which you'll start learning soon, well, that's when pattern matching gets real interesting and valuable. So hang with me for now, and soon you'll really start to understand and appreciate the power of pattern matching. Okay, so this should give you a sense of how to do pattern matching for strings, but what about other data types? In other words, how can you do pattern matching with maps or lists or maybe other primitive types like numbers? Well, we're going to look at pattern matching for several other types of data in the next few videos, and I'll show you how to do pattern matching on these other data types. But here's what I think is really important for you to focus on right now. Over the next several videos, I want you to try and identify a pattern in how we use pattern matching. Wow, that's a loaded sentence, but seriously, try and get your mind on the lookout for some patterns to what we cover in the next few videos on pattern matching. Okay, in the next video, we'll take a look at pattern matching with maps.